This is my second collection of short stories for adults. It is called Doppelganger, which is a German word which means your double who walks somewhere else. That is what the word means, and it is in fact reflective of the kind of stories that I have written, which are in which there is no connecting theme between these stories. They are 18 in number, and they are not thematically linked, all of them, but they have shadows which are repeated again and again, aspects of them which show up maybe in the first story and then again in the last one. It could be a small motif which is repeated. That is why I have called this collection Doppelganger, and of course Doppelganger is one of the short stories in the collection. It took me about 4 years to write, 2.5 years to write the stories, and then it was just a hunt for a publisher, which took a very long time because short stories don't have any space in the Indian market, or rather it's a very limited space, which is a bit surprising considering that given the constraints of time and modern life and all, who has the time to read a full novel? But still short stories are not really very popular, and that is the reason most of the publishers just turned these stories down. Ultimately, I was very lucky. I found a new publisher, Alchemy, who were very good, and they grabbed the book, and from then on it's been a perfect thing for me, and finally this book is out. Yes, these stories are all set in the city landscape. It is the cityscape which is described, and as you can see, with India modernizing at the rate at which it is, all cities are getting a similar sort of look and similar feel. So you cannot say this is Bangalore and this is Bombay. Sometimes it almost feels it's just the same city. So there is that sort of feeling of dislocation, and what I think sociologists call dislocation anxiety, which people feel when the street on which you live and on which your family has lived for a long time suddenly changes and becomes something else. And so that sense of dislocation, that sense of anxiety, the loneliness of this kind of an urban life, the secret tensions that are there, the desires, the hopes, these are the motivations and the themes that are to be found in my stories. Mostly yes, the characters range from somebody, there are all kinds of characters, but usually I would say that they are middle class. This is mostly a book about people from the middle class, or those who have come into it and are aspiring further, and it is a book about losing certain certain values which were maybe traditional to you, and then losing them in the process of reinventing yourself. And what is this reinvention all about? What have you lost in this process? These are the themes that are to be found, and these are the characters. I think the middle class is the section of society which is changing at the most rapid pace, because they are the ones who have a little chink or a little opening in the entire sort of scenario where possibilities are there. Suddenly things are happening in cities. You can send your child for different kind of classes which were not possible. You can become members of clubs, these kind of things. So this to me is the most dynamic class, and therefore all the stories are about this particular class. Well, I have not been, there are no happy endings in that sense, but yes, the characters in my stories do kind of resolve the situation that they are in, and they do move forward. I do not leave my characters stuck where they were when they started out at the beginning of the story. Well, it's very difficult actually to do that, but let me just take the last story, which is it's a tricky story for me as well, because I have dealt with the issue of of abortion and the residue that it leaves in a woman's life. I mean, today we have all the mores regarding gender sexuality are changing. Earlier women were confined and they were very careful about these things, but today it's a more freer society, and lots of young people are sort of believe in getting into relationships, and which is fine. I am not judging these people at all, but a question that came to me was that whether a woman belongs to the 21st century or whether she is like I am, a person who belongs to the previous century, and aren't we all still women, and isn't motherhood still the same thing? So today you have earlier you had a situation where if a woman became pregnant outside marriage, it was a problem for her, but and she, God only knows how she coped with it. But today you have the option of abortion and you can go ahead with it. And so yes, you say I don't want to have this child for whatever reason, I have my career or we can't afford it, or this, that or the other. But isn't there a residue left? I mean, eventually for whatever, whether it was for 3 months, 4 months, 2 months, 3 weeks, you did carry a germ of life inside you. So what does it do to you? This is a theme which I have explored. Like I said, it was a difficult theme for me, and I was very conscious of the fact that do not want to fall into this debate of are you pro-life or anti-life. So this is one of the themes. Yes, they do. I do see little things like I think every author works this way, and especially for short stories which are contemporary, which are very time bound, and they capture the heat of the moment. So it is a chance phrase or watching something happen that triggers off a story. For instance, in one of the stories, I won't give away the name, but I used to visit my father who was in hospital, and there was a man who had been in coma for about 6 years, and every day his mother used to come and sit by his bedside. His wife and his children had their lives to lead, and they had carried on, but this man was in coma, and the mother would and he could not move, but he would respond in little ways. So the mother used to come and sit by his bed, and sometimes some astrologer would come by and say कि आपका बेटा इस तारीख को ठीक हो जाएगा, उसके stars अच्छे हैं, and he is going to jump out of bed and say Ma and all that kind of thing. But so the mother lived on that hope, but I used to watch this and just wonder about it. And I used to watch how the nurses took care of this man, and how he had become, though he was not moving, they were still the little things that they did for him, which they did with such a lot of kindness. It did inspire me. It's of course an exceptional thing, but it did inspire me, to write the story.